Jackson for the
What a
inaugural
great
address.
honor to be able to introduce for the first time ever anywhere.
That's somewhat fairly accurate. You can't really trust anyone. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Luke Radowski of WeAreChange.org. A lot to get into today, especially with all the latest news about Trump getting the Conholio AIDS, the mainstream media freaking out, running with utterly insane conspiracy theories. Meanwhile, actual issues that actually affect us, well, they just don't matter. They get ignored. Lots of more crazy lockdowns. We'll get into all of it. And also the latest news that really only happens once in a blue moon, if ever. And that's a politician that actually has a somewhat rational good idea. That, of course, is Tulsi Gabbard. We'll get to it in just a little bit. Now, if you didn't know this, our stance here as an independent media organization has been very consistent, but I think it's fair to say we've been kind of being derailed by YouTube, so we started expanding our enterprise towards apocalypse, survival, self-defense training courses that we've been doing here in New Hampshire. And I am very proud to announce that the last one ever this season is happening this Saturday, and oh boy, this is going to be a very intense training, not for the weak of heart. 2 days, 1 night in the middle of the wilderness, where you will learn how to not just survive, but thrive. You're going to be sleeping out there in the wild in a shelter that you're going to build, and you're going to be drinking and eating everything that you get from the land. This will, by the way, include with you dealing with live animals, which will be a portion of this program which you will have the option of participating in. People who won't want to do that, we'll do a separate side class. There's also going to be range time, a load of self-defense tools, first aid, and too much other things to mention right now. And if you literally want to learn how to make it out there in the middle of the woods by yourself, well, this is going to be the survival drill for yourself. We already did 2 of these. We have a lot of reviews that you could read on our website. And I have to say, we already did this twice, and the groups of people that came out were absolutely incredible, awesome. We had a lot of fun, and we also had a great balance between men and women. If you are near Concord, New Hampshire, this is definitely an event that you won't want to miss. Check out the link down below for more information and details. Now, I think it's definitely fair to say that many politicians and pundits in the mainstream media have absolutely become deranged in their pursuit of power, and we have seen that on full display this weekend with their absolutely insane behavior, obsessing and theorizing surrounding issues that they just sometimes absolutely made up out of thin air. Meanwhile, important issues, by the way, that are being not reported at all, like the fact that the U.S. national debt has just hit $27 trillion. Moments ago, the United States officially just increased its national debt to $27 trillion. All of this is on the heels of millions of Americans losing their jobs because of automation, because of robotics, and because of big monopoly corporations that are dependent on slave labor and are also pushing out and destroying the middleman, as well as anyone with a little entrepreneurial spirit trying to start their own business that is finding it impossible to do so, mainly because of these monopolies and globalist government-connected entities like Amazon. And as millions and more Americans find it harder to get by, this is of course being exacerbated by the Conholio sickness, which is absolutely being extorted for the benefit of some of these politicians and media pundits that represent their special interests. And again, this weekend, it was just nonstop. Is Trump faking it? Is he really sick? Is he going to die? Is he going to recover? Nonstop coverage of him, his wife, the people around him, Kellyanne Conway, Mike Lee, Chris Christie, his staffers, all getting sick of the Conholio sickness. And of course, since everyone wants to talk about this issue, I'll bite and I will talk about it. Now, there was reports of Donald Trump getting an experimental drug being put on remdesivir and also a very strong steroid that is being used predominantly for critically ill Cornholio patients. Because of these reports, many people speculated that Donald Trump was doing not well at all. And that, along with other historical events of politicians lying about their health, specifically examples like FDR come to mind, is why some people even assumed that it was over for Donald Trump. And that definitely doesn't seem like the case at all. Now, it's very interesting to see the media coverage of this particular health incident comparatively to other health incidences with other politicians, like we saw in 2016 with Hillary Clinton, who is here pictured with a child staged photo op when she had pneumonia. Pneumonia that, of course, the mainstream media was denying the existence of, and at that time, in 2016, was telling you that Hillary Clinton was healthy and was not sick. Yes, Donald Trump used that to his political advantage and highlighted it as a way to gain political power. Huffington Post just wrote an article talking about how the president taunted Clinton for getting sick on the campaign trail 4 years ago, but they absolutely forgot how they were reporting how she wasn't sick at all, as we have an article here from WBUR, and many other news organizations had very similar headlines, but this one particularly reads, Hillary Clinton's not sick, our sexist media is. And after the election, we found out that she did have pneumonia. Now, could this be one of the reasons why the mainstream media is playing up the severity of Donald Trump, who they're kind of speculating is not doing well at all? Well, that could be one determining factor, but during these situations, we have to understand historically, the media and the politicians don't tell you the truth. Now add that to the fact that we're dealing with the Cornholio sickness, something that we have seen contradicted information every week almost now. You have another layer of crap on a big crap storm that's incoming, filled with caca coming our way. So yeah, as these events unfold, very hard to get any kind of legitimate information or truth from it. In my opinion, it's best to be skeptical of both sides, but either way, we are seeing the worst behaviors on full display here in the United States, as this, of course, is only another issue that's dividing Americans more and more. There's other people commenting that Trump was allegedly really sick because he wasn't tweeting, and now we have what would be considered a roid rage tweet storm by Donald Trump, along, of course, with his limousine ride outside of the hospital as a way to, of course, show that he's doing well and to appreciate the people who have been standing outside of his hospital wishing him well. And according to some media narratives, this was because Trump was, quote, bored, and allegedly, according from insider sources, allegedly, again, anonymous sources, Trump wants to get out of the hospital because it, quote, makes him look weak. Donald Trump also released a lot of videos and photos from his hospital stay that, of course, contradicted a lot of the media narrative, that he was very ill. But now, the media is obsessing and very angry about his stunt. It's also important to note that there was a lot of conspiracy theories specifically regarding the photos that Donald Trump released, which according to some in the mainstream media were faked, were staged. Again, we're arguing about absolute nonsense that in my opinion is absolutely ridiculous. But today, again, the big focus of discussion is this car ride, is this, quote, joyride stunt, with Piers Morgan even coming out and saying that the Cornholio-infected Trump, quote, joyride proves that he learned nothing about the Cornholio sickness and is shamefully prepared to risk Secret Service agents trying to look like a tough guy. Donald Trump's advisor, Corey Lewandowski, actually came out and said that some of the Secret Service members that were in the car volunteered for this joyride. But after just examining some of these headlines, I have to ask myself, what are we doing here? I mean, come on. We have so many important issues to talk about, so many things affecting actual Americans. And this is where the dialogue, this is where the conversation's at. It's absolutely a huge waste of time and a perfect example of just how ridiculous some of these people are. Now, it definitely does look like Trump is doing a lot better than, of course, the mainstream media is categorizing him as being. And honestly, this whole situation is just another example of people using tragedy in order to gain power over it. And they will do it in the most shameless ways possible, as we've just seen countless numbers of individuals shame people who are having public gatherings for not following some made-up rules. Meanwhile, they utterly ignore other events, specifically the Black Lives Matter protest, which of course many of the people criticizing Donald Trump for this ride absolutely usually cheer on. And I'm sorry, but if you're going to get angry at Trump riding in an SUV with Secret Service agents that allegedly volunteered, you should be just as angry as thousands of people coming together if you believe in the official narrative of what we're being told. And of course, this intellectual dishonesty, this cognitive dissonance, this ignorance is infuriating to deal with because certain rules apply to certain events only if they support a certain narrative. If they don't, everything's off the table. And we have seen this year, this entire tragedy being used by people exploiting it for their own personal benefit, their own personal power to control you. This is why we're having headlines from CNN talking about how there is no getting back to normal. We even had the World Health Organization that has been wrong more than they have been right this entire time, just come out with a very interesting statement saying that 10% of the, quote, world's population already had the conholio sickness. And again, they're still fear-mongering and worrying everyone, saying that people are still vulnerable because we're, quote, heading into a very difficult time. There's also some studies coming out showing that how you now can't catch this conholio sickness from door handles, and it appears that this sickness does not spread surface to surface. And again, this is just an example of what we've been hearing all year with government authorities, organizations saying, don't wear masks. No, wait, wear masks. Stay 6 feet apart. No, wait, don't stay 6 feet apart. It's airborne. No, it's not airborne. Again, this is a situation that we have to understand. We still don't know the clear details of, but it still doesn't stop this bureaucratic fat cat government boot-licking politicians using this tragedy as a way to exert their control. And we're seeing that done once again in New York, as allegedly the cases are going back up. And guess what? New restrictions are being put in. Lockdowns are coming back, especially in places like New York and Paris, as allegedly the number of cases are going up. Again, my last video on this particular topic, especially with Donald Trump, had to do with the larger question of these tests in general. But when it comes to government, we have to understand that these people can't run a DMV service correctly. What makes you think that they could deal with a complicated health issue? In Ireland, they're imposing lockdowns that literally set up a curfew and don't allow people to leave their homes after 10 p.m., which, again, is just absolutely ridiculous. There's no science behind any of these restrictions. There are even some people suggesting that it's making the situation that much worse, which I think there's some evidence showing that. There's new restrictions in Germany, which of course are being protested. The news of these protests is of course also being heavily censored. Meanwhile, protests that support the narrative and the agenda of the billionaire class, you know, like Black Lives Matter, that of course is being promoted to you every single day on almost every single sports, movie, and television show out there. Again, you have every reason to be skeptical, especially during these mad times where people are just lusting over power and don't care about anything that stands in their way. People are already feeling the emotional impact. The financial impact is still on its way, and we can thank the politicians and the mainstream media for that. And again, as I mentioned and I introed in the beginning of this video, not all politicians are 99.9% wrong all the times. That 0.0001% when they're right, they do deserve some attention. And that's why I think it's important to bring up a new congressional resolution calling for the charges to be dropped against Edward Snowden, a government whistleblower who uncovered how the government is lying to its people and spying on them, gaining draconian powers over you while denying that they even had them in the first place. So yeah, the people who are and were within government who are exposing the truth of it, they deserve our protection. They deserve our praise. They don't deserve to be punished. And that's why these efforts trying to free people like Edward Snowden and Julian Assange should be mentioned, should be promoted. They need to be advertised because, again, these are also other issues that are being completely downranked in the algorithm, heavily censored, and of course shadow banned. And that's why it's more important than ever that you guys actually share these kinds of videos. If it wasn't, I wouldn't be here. I'm literally doing survival training courses now so I can make sure I have an income to pay some of the people that I work with to make sure that this operation survives. Now, also, this has been a really fun experiment. I really love doing this. And in part, I wouldn't be doing this if there wasn't a massive censorship efforts. And I think people need to be more prepared than ever, and this is needed. But I digress here. Of course, prepare yourself accordingly. This is a pretty wild year, and it's probably only going to get wilder from here, especially ramping up to the election. I thank you guys for being a part of this journey for me. If you thought I did a good job here, share this video with your friends and family members. More important than ever, I wouldn't be here if you weren't doing that, and this is why. Love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on wearechange.org.